Hi, this is Shadi, and today we will be discussing Senegalese wrestling. This is something that's been requested for quite some time now, and I apologize for the delay. So, like many other episodes, we will be talking briefly about the history and the tradition of the art, and of course the rules, and compare it with some throws of judo. Obviously this is grappling, so you're gonna see a lot of similarities, and in this one in particular I'm gonna talk about its transition or its beautiful carry into MMA, of course talking about Umar Kane at the end, or Rug. So before I do that, I just want to say that if I don't cover a particular style of grappling, or it takes me some time, I apologize. Sometimes there's just not enough footage to work with, whether it is Spanish, Portuguese, etc. Or sometimes if there is, it's probably owned by something like Nat Geo or something that would just get me blocked worldwide, and the video will not be accessible, so I apologize. So without further ado, let's first talk about the tradition. We have to understand that first there is many ethnic groups in Senegal. So this is according to afroculture.net, and if I say something inaccurate or needs clarifying, please let me know in the comments below. So according to the Bambara, Wolof and Serer tradition, this is something that was trained in preparation for war, and it would be trained at night. Obviously they would condition themselves with physical strength training and other stuff. Obviously the diet plays a huge role, and of course there is the competitions for times of peace. For example, according to the Diola and the Serer, which are ethnic groups, they would train in the times of peace, particularly at the end of the harvest, and they would hold competition to decide who is the strongest among the villagers. And after the rainy season, they would gather around for the competition and they would compete, and the winner would obviously be a huge pride for the village that he belongs to or he comes from, and they would get rewarded with like cereal, cattle and other precious prizes, a little bit similar to Korean shiram, which is an art obviously that was practiced during wartime and also during peace, where during the festivals they would compete, and the winner would get something valuable, which is particularly a ox, which is of high value. And even till this day the competition is still being made, and they would get like a sculpture of a golden ox as a symbol of their old tradition. And very similar here in Senegalese wrestling, you have for peace and you have for war. Also depending on the ethnic group, there is some that is more acrobatic, very little or no striking, and there are some that are just absolutely just hardcore and they would strike. Now as you see in the footage in front of you, it can be very hardcore with striking, winning sometimes by KO. So when it comes to the rules, you either have to plant someone flat on their back, head, shoulders, buttocks, or on all fours, particularly the hands or elbows and knees, and also the KO. So the ring is made up of sandbags. You have to get them to the ground or outside of the wrestling area, and it can be done through high amplitude throwing, as you see in front of you. It can be done also by the KO, and it can be done by dragging and really grip fighting until you get someone out of the surface area, as you see the edge behind them. So striking is a very crucial when it comes to carrying into self-defense or MMA, which is obviously very important to me. You can see there is some garment involved, the belt, similar to all belt wrestling, but it is a bit different. As you see, the KOs, the brutal KOs, also overhooks, underhooks, and fighting for the grip. So it's not just like a belt grip and you have to keep it the entire fight like Lima or any type of belt wrestling. So it is a mix of everything, which makes it truly absolutely remarkable. Now let's compare some throwing. Here you see grabbing the belt and the legs, scooping up with a beautiful skuinage. This is what I really like about this laamb wrestling or Senegalese wrestling, is the high amplitude throwing. Here you see you are clearly demonstrating control, power, and just overall great skills. Let's see it here in judo. In judo, it can be done multiple ways. rather grabbing the sleeve, the lapel, one leg, two leg, having upper body control or just lower body control. It's also kuinage as long as you use it scooping up and slamming down. Do not confuse it with morotegari if it was grabbed with both legs. So it's important to really scoop up and take down. The next one here is ushiro goshi, again demonstrating control, strength, and technical skills to clearly show that he is the superior wrestler. Also, there is like a little strings and stuff that they would hold each other with. If someone can really talk more about it, I would really appreciate it. Here you see ushiro goshi is like a counter attack. Obviously, judokas would opt more for uranage, but I would say ushiro goshi is highly underrated. First, for self-defense, you would remain standing. This is very important. And two, if you want to engage on the ground, you can easily find yourself in a very favorable position like the yokoshiogatame or side control. Now here, let's continue. He rotates him onto his back and throws down with the ippon seranage. Absolutely genius and absolutely beautiful. Let's see that again. So here, there's striking, there's also grip fighting, and then rotates him onto his back and cuts down with the hands, clearly showing not only technique, strength, and also cutting down with the hands. It's a teiwaza, or a hand technique, not just lifting with the hips. Some people lift with the hips and then cut down with the hands, but the right principle or the main principle is just really making sure you are lower than them and just cutting down with the hands. It is a teiwaza for a reason. The Senegalese wrestler did it beautifully. Here, let's see a very monumental or picturesque kata guruma high lift, slamming down the old classical kata guruma where we would grab the leg, open up, position themselves, grab the leg, lift up with the hips, and then slam down with the hands. Again, another teiwaza or hand technique, classical. Again, this is something that's very, I would say their bread and butter is the high amplitude throw. If they want to take it into self-defense or MMA, they should really rely on it in order to make the art truly shine in the octagon. Now here, this one, this is a counter to a single leg done with uchimata. So here you see let's see it again. So the wrestler grabbed a single leg trying to lift up like a high crotch. The other one did what like a Georgian grip, but cupping the lat, which really makes it possible in a no-gi format, and thus finishing with uchimata. Now, let's talk about MMA for a second. Obviously, I'm going to talk about Umar Kane and his absolute beast performance in one championship. In my opinion, in order to make Senegalese wrestling truly shine in the octagon, you have to truly showcase two things, in my opinion. First one is obviously high amplitude throwing, which is something very rare in MMA. Obviously, there's a lot of good and beautiful takedowns. For example, the wrestlers like Khabib, for example, he would collapse the legs of his opponent and their back to the cage, and thus proceed to maul. But here, for example, just absolutely good technique, strength, and look, just gets up, high amplitude, sukuinage, lands inside control, and shows his dominance and technical superiority. The second thing is obviously it's going to be ground and pound based on the striking that you see in Senegalese wrestling, and I think Umar Kane or Rug is doing a great job at doing that. Now, obviously for MMA you need to polish or add to your base something like Muay Thai to really evolve your kicking, and also newaza, ground submissions, and pinning. These are stuff that are missing in Senegalese wrestling, but do not rely on them for the win. You would obviously rely on what makes your art very special, which is the high amplitude or picturesque takedowns, and also the ground and pound. Since they fight bare knuckle, putting them with gloves, they're gonna be swinging even harder in MMA. So this is why something like Senegalese wrestling or laamb wrestling would translate beautifully into the octagon and very successfully. Again, if you have anything else to add, let me know, especially if you're Senegalese. If I said something inaccurate about the ethnic groups or something about the history, let me know down below. I'll leave the afroculture.net link in the description for you to check it out. Also, do not forget to check out Josh Simon's shop for articles and t-shirts, and please consider supporting me on Patreon for exclusive content for the patrons only, and it would greatly support my work here on YouTube. If you have anything else to add, like I said, let me know down below. This was Shadi, and as always, thank you for listening.